In this video, we're going to talk about interest. Now, as a concept, interest is money earned or possibly charged based on a percent. So if we're talking about money earned, that means you are usually making some sort of investment with your money. Now, investments could be really basic, like putting money in a bank account, opening a savings account. Or it could be more risky, like you could invest in stocks. So if you go and buy some stocks in a company, of course, it depends on the company. And the more risk, usually the bigger the payoff. So if you invest in a company that's just getting going because you believe that idea is going to take off, your stocks will go up in value tremendously and you will make a lot of money off of it. But in both cases, those are examples of interest. If we're talking about charged, money that you are charged, that means you're doing the borrowing. And there are many examples of this. Most people, of course, are aware credit cards are a way of borrowing money, or you take out a loan from the bank. Those are kind of nice, safe ones. Bank loans tend to be very safe and not so harsh, but banks are usually doing research to make sure, because they're taking a risk on you to loan you money, and they make sure that you are a good risk. The more risky it is, the higher the percent. Okay, so credit cards are actually pretty high risk, and therefore they are high percent. Okay, let's talk about percents for a second before we actually do some interest. So a percent, I'm talking about, parts out of 100. Okay, so like as an example, when you say something like 30%, you're talking about parts out of 100 or 30 out of 100. Okay, but we're going to think of percents more as a decimal. So as a decimal, we would take the decimal place, which is currently behind the 30, and move it 2 places to the left. So 0.30 represents 30%, because 0.30, by the way, is in the hundreds place, right? That zero right here is in the hundreds place. So this is 30 in the hundredths place, or 30 over 100, which I will go ahead and just take a second to write, since I've said it like 3 times now. Okay, so all 3 of those mean the same thing when we're talking about percentages. Okay, percents are also meant to be multiplied. So when you take, like, for example, 30% of $50, okay, that means you're going to actually take 0.30, I changed it into a decimal, and you're going to times it by 50. And if you get your calculator, if you don't have it, pause the video, go grab it, and put it into your calculator, you will come up with 15. And that's how we take percents, or $15, depending on what we're talking about here. All right, $15. Okay, so let's put this into an example. Now we're going to look at simple percent, or simple interest. I'm sorry. That's what we're going to focus on. And with simple interest, it kind of calculates the interest like as a one-time thing. So interest is calculated on the initial amount. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say I'm talking about earning, we'll say earning. Simple interest of 2% for opening a savings account with a minimum of $100. By the way, just to kind of comment on that, the reason banks pay you money to open a savings account is because basically they're holding it for you, quote unquote, protecting it for you, but they're really loaning it out. They're taking your money and they're loaning it to other people and earning interest at a higher rate for loaning it. And then that's how they make money. So they ask you to kind of quote unquote invest with them. And they pay you a tiny little percent for that. And then they go around and make more of a percent. Okay. So let's go ahead and calculate then how the interest would work. So after 1 year, your $100, I'm going to times it by the percent. So now since it's 2%, that means I'm going to take the decimal and I'm going to move it 2 places over to the left. So it'd be 0.02. And I'm going to multiply that. And that's going to give me a whole whopping $2. That's the interest you earn for letting your $100 sit in an account for the year with the bank. Okay. So after 2 years, they're going to pay you another 2% of interest. So you'll get your first $100 that's sitting there, plus the $2 you earned for the first year, plus another $2 for the second year. So this is interest for the first year, interest for the second year. So now you have a total of $104. Whereas up here, after 1 year, you have a total of $102. Oops. So you get the idea. Every year you earn $2 in interest. So what if I wanted to figure out how much I earned in 5 years? Well, basically, I'd take that $2 of interest, right? And I'd times it by 5. So I'd earn $10 of interest for a total of $110 in the bank. Now it's not a lot of money, but hey, that's $10 you didn't have 5 years ago. And it just sat there. It literally just sat and earned a little bit of interest. Okay, you get the idea. Now, this process of calculating the interest over a period of time does have a very simple formula. It is the principal, which is the amount you're either investing or borrowing, times the percent, which they also call rate, times time. So not to confuse you, because there's a principal and a percent, they call this P for principal, R for rate, T for time. So the rate is the percent. Or you can just write it simply I equals PRT. And that's how you calculate interest, simple interest. All right, let's look at an example then. So Riley let his friend borrow $10,000. Oops, how nice of Riley. To be paid back in 3 years at a rate of 4.5%. Now we're going to assume simple interest because Riley's a friend and he's being nice. Okay, So let's figure out how much will Riley earn from his friend. Well, let's calculate the interest. So we're going to use our formula, PRT. In this case, principal is the $10,000 that was borrowed. The rate, R, is the percent, and I'm going to write that as move in the decimal twice. So that'd be 0.045 times time, which is for 3 years. Okay, so grab your calculator, plug that in. I'm going to do that myself. I came up with $13.50. So that's how much Riley's going to earn by letting his friend borrow that money. That's nice. That's not too bad. All right. Okay, now how much is his friend going to pay? Now, his friend is not just going to pay the interest of $13.50, but also the initial $10,000 that was borrowed. So technically it's the 10,000 plus the $13.50, or $11,350. Really not a bad deal. It was a very good friend to do that. Now, this calculation here at the end, when you figure out how much total that was that the person paid, his friend paid, that has a different formula, and you can kind of see it. It is, they call A for amount that you're going to either pay or receive, depending on who we're talking about. It is principal plus principal rate time. So it's the original principal plus the interest, but they like to write the formula like this. Now, if you're familiar with algebra, they basically factored P out. But really what they're doing is they're taking the amount of interest that you're going to pay, this RT, plus 100% of what you borrowed. That's what that one is representing. So 100% of what you borrowed. Okay, but that is the formula that they often use to calculate the total amount paid or received, depending on if you are loaning or borrowing. All right, now let's pretend in this same scenario that Riley's friend, suppose Riley's friend decided not to ask Riley, but instead opened a credit card. And all they were going to do was spend this $10,000. They put $10,000 on it and threw the credit card away. And cut up the card. Okay, so they couldn't put any more money. If they want to pay it back in 3 years, that's fine. They can do that, but they're going to earn a much higher interest. In fact, credit cards, their interest rates, depending on the person and their credit score, is usually up in the 20%. So let's suppose, or let's just say the interest rate is 21%. Yikes. Okay. Now, this is going to earn a different kind of interest, not just simple interest. They're going to calculate, a credit card company doesn't just calculate interest once. It calculates interest every month because they want you to make a payment every month. So they call this type of interest compound interest. So compound interest is when they recalculate the interest because Riley's going to probably pay off every month on this credit card. So let's just say that his payment is going to be, let's just do a payment of $150. He's going to pay $150 every month. Okay, so here's the idea. And I'm going to make like a little table for this. So in the first month, all right, the card company, they're going to calculate the interest. So they're going to take his $10,000 and they're going to times it by 21%. I'm going to put it in parentheses. And that's going to end up being, oops, grab your calculator, just like I am. Though I could do this without, it's okay, it's good practice. $2,100. That's how much interest. So now he owes $12,100. Okay, but he's going to make a payment of $150. Now, $150 from the $12,100 is actually not enough. So here, let me make a change then. Let's not do $150 every month, because that's not even covering the interest, right? The interest alone is $2,100. Okay, so let's go ahead and say instead that he's going to pay, let's say $2,500 every month. There we go. That'll at least cover the interest. All right, so times, what did I say? $2,500. Oh, I put it in my calculator as a multiplication instead of subtraction. Got a very big number. There we go. $9,600. All right, so now he owes $9,600. Notice though, that based on what he originally borrowed, that $10,000, he's only paid $400 off because of the interest. And he's making a huge payment. Okay, so let's see, month 2. Now they're going to recalculate the interest based on the $9,600 because he's paid it down. So they take that and times it by the 21%, and that gives a total of $2,016, so a little bit less. So they add that to the original $9,600. And now we have a total of $11,616 owed. And he's going to make a payment. So from that $11,616, he's going to pay $2,500. So using my calculator, I got $9,116. All right, it's making a dent now. Paid about a little over 400. All right, a little over 400 this time. Month 3, and you keep repeating. So now we take this $9,116 and times it by 21%. So that's what he's earning the interest on now. And now he is going to be charged an interest of $1,914.36. So I'm going to add that to the 9,116. I'm not going to show that addition. I'm just going to do it on my calculator. So I get 11,030.36. He makes his payment of $2,500. And now he owes $8,530.36. All right, bigger chunk now that he's earning interest on less. But you get the idea. With credit cards, if you don't pay enough, you're going to start getting the debt racking up because of the interest. Or you might barely be paying enough to just cover the interest, and therefore you're not really making a dent on getting that debt paid off. As you can kind of see with this example, the initial amount I started with wasn't even close to enough. All right. But that's kind of the idea behind compound interest, is they recalculate the interest based on the new amount, whereas simple interest just takes into account the original amount, and that's what it's charged every month. And there you go. That's interest.